Hello, everybody. It is just under 2 weeks to go until the final of the Women's Champions League season. And after a record-breaking season for the tournament, it seems perfect. The first panel session of today focuses on this, the Women's Champions League, all the things that have changed, all the things that have gone so very well. I'm Kate Mason. I'm a TV presenter who's been with beIN, Sky and BT, and I also host the Football Ramble and the MIP Alumni podcast. And I'm here to help collect the thoughts of some really brilliant guests that we've got with us today. First up, Bayern defender Hannah Glass. Hello, Hannah.
Hi.
Here she is. Andrea Ekblad will also be joining us, the rights director from DAZN, who's been so instrumental in this season of the Champions League.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, how's it going? And third up, Ariana Cristione, who is now Director of Women's Football at Next Sports. Ariana, hey.
Good morning, everyone.
How are we all doing? Bright and breezy. Ready to talk women's football?
Always. Yeah, it's so exciting to be in May and 2 weeks out of the final, actually.
So exciting. Barcelona-Lyon in Turin, Saturday, 21st of May. We've already had so many massive games in the Champions League so far this season. It's been an incredible thing for everyone to be a part of. And I think it's interesting to talk about this as a new format for the Women's Champions League, because the change was agreed, 2 and a bit years ago. And as a part of the UEFA Women's Football Strategy, the hashtag is Time for Action. And it basically is talking about how we can make more people watch the Women's Champions League. And to be honest, it seems to be going pretty well, Hannah. You, of course, have been involved yourself in this season of the Women's Champions League. How has it felt to be a player and to be a part of something that seems to be growing so amazingly?
No, well, obviously, it's amazing to be able to be a part of this journey and also this amazing development that we've been seeing the last couple of years in women's football. And I'm just trying to enjoy it as much as possible and just keep taking it to the next level too.
Yeah, and of course, the thing is, we're changing the format. So the key point is that, Ariana, about the group stages, is that now it's for the groups are all teams of 4 and they play each other, which is a change. It sounds like a small thing, but there was quite a lot of conversation about what impacts that would have on the Champions League this season. What have you made of it?
I mean, I think it's been a massive change. I'm obviously on one hand sad that I didn't get to compete, especially with Hannah, as we did get to play Champions League in the past together. But for women's football in general, it's been huge. We all know that there's a massive knowledge gap in the men versus women's sports. And by having this round robin type play in the beginning, it's allowing fans to tune in to watch. Obviously, everybody knows where to watch because DAZN is airing it for every game. But it's also allowing storytelling to happen. Men get storytelling daily throughout the entire year, and women's storytelling usually only happens at peak points for major events like women's Euros or women's World Cup. So this is allowing people to tune in and follow these stories. And then obviously DAZN did a fantastic job with the We Will Rise campaign. And this again is allowing people to get to know the players and to get to know their stories. And now they're rooting for certain teams and they get to follow them through this journey. That's not just one and done kind of game. It's more of this group play. And so I just think it's fantastic on so many levels.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And Ariana, actually, Andrea will obviously talk lots about how that's worked with DAZN. But just to stick with you for a moment, Ariana, I saw had written a really interesting article on your on the Next website about this concept of storytelling. Can you explain a little bit more what you've been thinking about that within the women's game? You mentioned, of course, that it's about getting players to, people want to be rooting for these players. People want to know what the themes are. And that seems to be quite important in kind of the digital things that go around the concept of football for the women's game. Can you talk more about that?
Yes, it's not just necessarily the digital side of it. Obviously, that's a huge side, but that also brings in sponsorship and that also brings in the outside forces. And it kind of makes this cyclical cycle of understanding who the players are means that we can tell these better stories. It means that the fans will know who the players are, means that sponsors want to align with these teams or with these players in order to bring in the funding and the investment needed to develop women's football. For a long time, and even now, but we're getting better, most people could name probably the top 10 players around the world, but not 10 players on a single team. And now through the different storytelling avenues, through the social media, through OTT platforms, we can tell these stories, and we can also tell them less expensively. COVID actually helped us in a lot of ways, that you can just grab a phone and hold it out and start to talk to your fans, start to talk to the consumers, start to talk to clients, and it changes this new relationship. And so through digital and with a digital plan, you can start to break out these stories individually of each player. You don't have to focus on your top 4 or 5 players that historically has been done. The same players are in the same campaigns for women's football, are pushed to the same sponsors. And we have so many players, not just 1 through 11 on the field, 1 through 18, 1 through 25. And these women do so much more than just play football. They study. I know Hannah studies. I know Hannah has a life outside of football that's really impressive, and probably a lot of people don't know, but it's a story that can and should be told.
Is that, Hannah, is that something that you try and communicate and you feel like you have support to do as a player now?
Well, like, I don't try to communicate it that much. Actually, it's just like a side thing I do for myself, like the studies and everything. And yeah, but maybe I should be able to push it more often to let people see, okay, it's not just football, it's also like studies and other things in life too.
Yeah, and of course, that's something that in the men's, I guess that's a big differentiator. Like in the men's game, people are the guys are so distant from what most people are living day to day, right? So that is actually a real strength of the women's game. Andrea, I want to talk to you about this then. So the deal was that DAZN, I don't fully, and you have to explain to me about these rights things, right? Because it's quite hard to understand for the layman. But the idea was that this would be marketed all as one thing, the Women's Champions League. So that meant that DAZN would broadcast it out from start to finish. Why did you want to do that?
Well, first of all, going back a step is, as we've touched upon earlier in your intro as well, that UEFA's centralization of rights. So it's not just the reformatting the competition with the group stage introduction, but also centralizing the rights was absolutely crucial for this partnership, this historic partnership that DAZN could happen. So it's a deal that has never been done before, where you have one single broadcaster all around the world, and you have one home for the competitions, the Women's Champions League all around the world. You go to DAZN and DAZN's YouTube channel, and you will have access to all the games for free, no matter where you are. That's never been done before, and we wanted to make this competition accessible and for the whole world to be able to see, because we truly thought that was the step into fast tracking the commercialization of the game. So the access and the visibility, the free of charge, that you can watch all the games, but also outside of the 90 minutes, you can also watch hundreds of pieces of content on the platform around the best goals and top saves, or get to know the players, our new weekly show, The Matchup, and so forth. And the length of the competition. So instead of the knockout right away, which was the previous structure, now we have 61 games. The big clubs get to compete with one another and bring the fans closer to the players, the clubs, the rivalry, from October until the end of May each year. So that's been a huge change.
And even in halftime in the group stages, one thing I really enjoyed was seeing some of those little features, for example, from small football clubs in London. I found that quite kind of emotional, seeing how this big tournament for women's football was being used to tell other stories about the whole spectrum of women's football. And indeed also even some of the adverts that you guys were running. So like stuff for period pants, for example. I just thought it was kind of amazing to be watching football and seeing female specific advertising going out on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, Adidas came in with we had this global Adidas sponsorship deal, and they obviously wanted to bring a different ad campaign to the UEFA Women's Champions League partnership. But yes, you mentioned those city series that we did with some of the big cities in the competition. Really, this array of cool content, authentic storytelling. We wanted to engage with younger audience as well, because we realized that, with the YouTube partnership, we wanted to serve and bring in a different audience, a younger audience who doesn't consume sports in the traditional way, and we wanted to bring content to them first, and then for them to get to fall in love with the Women's Champions League and the players and everything around it.
And that seems to be going okay, huh? For what you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, it's been doing really well. I know we'll talk a little bit later about some of the key successes of this season, but we're already seeing the ripple effects in emotion, and we haven't even concluded season 1. So really, I'm very excited about what's ahead of us, because this is only just the beginning.
It is. Even though, of course, we're speaking to two people who've already had massive careers in women's football. Anna, did you get a sense that this was different this season? Did it feel different kind of on the ground participating?
Yeah, like a bit actually. Not only like with the group stage games, but also things happened in the leagues too. Not only like in our league, but also in the English league. Like normally maybe we lost some more points because it was like a tougher schedule with more like higher intensity games and those kind of things. So it was like mentally a total different challenge than maybe from last year when you had fewer games in this kind of high level.
Oh, I see what you mean. So it's you're getting more repeat competition at that level. So that's a better way of training as well for what you're doing in your domestic leagues.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was some concern, I think, that playing it in this way might be less competitive. People had talked about it. And some of the group stage games were quite disbalanced, which is something that we see still in some areas of women's football, partly because some teams like yours are so advanced, and others are perhaps still building up their work. But of course, you were involved in a pretty big win against Lyon, right?
Yeah, that was actually really cool. Home game, we lost the first game away, and we wanted to have the win at home, and I think we did a good game against a good team. But at the end, we got through to the next round, and that was the most important for us.
Yeah, of course, not just to defeat one of the biggest teams in the world. Sure, no, whatever. Forget about it. And Andrea as well. You said let's talk about some of these successes then, because one of the key things is that more people than ever are watching great players like Hannah participate.
Yeah, I mean, in general, we just truly believe that more leads to more. So, and we're already seeing these in a many tangible way. So what do I mean by that is that we're creating more content. We are making all the games available for free on one single platform. There are more followers on social media for the players. There are more brands getting involved and, sponsoring the players or the clubs or the competition as well. Moving the games to big stadiums. 7 out of 8 quarterfinals took place in the big stadiums of each club. All the semifinals took place in the big stadiums. World records have been broken 2 times at Camp Nou, which I was fortunate enough to be there both times. Making all sorts of headlines around the world and in mainstream media and news. New French record. And also within the competition, there has been multiple records being broken. So I believe there was a French record first in Lyon and then later on at Parc des Princes with 43,000 people. So filling stadiums obviously constantly will be a next step, like for all match days. And I know this is very much on the clubs and UEFA's radar as well, but it's also key to us, and how is it that we can support everyone in achieving that, obviously on the broadcast as well, seeing full stadiums and fans being cheering for the team and making great noise. It just creates brilliant television as well.
Yeah, compare it to the pandemic, right? Yeah.
Like Alexia Putellas said last week in an interview, not to DAZN, so it was totally organic, that she was saying that everybody's paying more attention to Barca now for two reasons. One is because they won, and because the UEFA Women's Champions League has more visibility now, thanks to DAZN. So really, those ripple effects in motion that we're seeing, and yeah, it's what we're looking forward to in next season as well. And when it comes to the viewership, we've seen 11.1 million hours and counting up until now viewing time, or fans tuning in for over 230 countries and territories. So it's practically all around the world, and 40 million views during the group stage. And if you think about the fact that last season, even friends and family found it really difficult to watch,
Yes.
to the 14 million or 2.6 million for the El Clasico for one single game, that's really huge.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's long been a struggle when covering women's football, has been finding it and finding the data and just having the access to it. So it's really, really exciting that you're doing that. Tell us about being at the Camp Nou. I was so jealous of everyone who was there. It just, oh my days.
Well, it was really special. I believe, like, I was way more emotional the first time. I was thinking about everything, about, like, as a little girl playing sports, and have never in a million years would have thought that this could happen in my lifetime, even more so. And also as a mom to have a 6-year-old daughter who loves football, and it just all those thoughts running through your head that, oh my goodness, like, this is what I'm working for, and this is what I want her to have, all the access, all the equal opportunities to the boys. And yeah, so it was all these emotions rushing through, and it was a beautiful, beautiful moment in not just in sports and women's sports, but in society as well, I thought. So it was really amazing.
Yeah, my personal similar experience was at an England women's game, which was totally sold out, and I saw little boys with shirts with female players on the back, and I was like, oh my God, imagine that. Ariana, I'd imagine we all have had those moments in the course of our kind of time, either playing or following football. Is there a moment for you that sticks in the mind of that kind of experience?
Yes, I was at the 99 Women's World Cup right up front. And I got to participate as a youth player. And that was something where we didn't know it was going to become a world record. And we didn't know that women's football was going to start to change the entire path of sport for all of women. Unfortunately, I did not get to go to the Barcelona game for personal reasons, and I could not change something, unfortunately. And I'm so sad that I was not there to get the second record. But the 99 World Cup was really, really special. And it's something I also like to bring up, because sometimes we forget what those women did so long ago. They sold out a major arena before people really knew what was happening, before it was a thing, before it was cool or anybody was showing it on any sort of platform. And so that was super special. And I'm hoping that we can go back to those women and kind of bring them to the forefront again, because not just the U.S. national team, there was a lot of it. There was Italy there was China, there was a lot of national teams that also deserve some recognition for the groundwork that they've done, that, 30 years later, we get to do some more, well, it's not exactly 30 years, but that we're just now making these strides again. So I'm really excited for what's happening, and I'm really excited for the future, because they did it twice. They didn't just do it once, but they did it back to back. And again, as Andrea said, it wasn't just them. There was a lot of other records being broken. And so it's amazing. And I think it's also super important to note that this Camp Nou record will be the record for men or women this season. They're projecting that even a men's game this year will not be able to beat that record because Champions League for the men will be at Stade de France, and it's a smaller stadium. So women will hold the record this year for the biggest turnout of football, and that's amazing.
That is really beautiful. And I think you make a great point as well about recognizing our history, like the history of women's football. Sometimes people forget that this has been being worked on for many years. There have been pioneers that have come before, not just, you're talking about 30 years ago, even, you know, in this country in the 1920s. And I think it's so important to keep remembering that this has been a long old slog, right, Ariana? And we're kind of hopefully starting to get the rewards of that now. When you're talking about this mainstream thing, Hannah, do you have an experience that comes to mind of that kind of moment of recognizing where this game was?
Do you mean like earlier, like before, or?
Yeah, maybe in your career, or maybe just seeing people coming to watch in greater numbers and thinking, wow.
Yeah, then maybe it was before the World Cup. We played a friendly game against Germany in Sweden at the big stadium in Stockholm. And we also had a record-breaking amount of visitors at that game. I think it was like 24,000 or something. And then it was like, whoa, like that was the biggest crowd like ever for women's football in Sweden. And that was like a major step for us as a team, for like also a big year with the World Cup coming also. Yeah,
and for you as well, does it, I mean, big crowds, right? They have an impact when you're down there on the pitch.
Yeah, like definitely. Also now when we played in Allianz against Paris, that was so amazing, and I was just having so much fun, and I was enjoying it like more than ever before. And also like in the big tournaments like the Euros or the World Cups, it's just like something different. Like the fans mean so much to us out there, and they're also making the game like better, not just for us, but also for the other fans that comes to the stadium.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I mean, pandemic football really proved how important the fans are, because some of the highlights you watch, you know, partly from the Premier League, it just feels like something different. It feels like not true football. And when you see people enjoying it, it's just a beautiful thing, really. And I guess, Hannah, as well, your parents and your family and all of these people, your wider family, can enjoy watching you in these big stadiums. What does it mean for them?
No, but obviously they're so proud and are also enjoying it as well, like to be there and see their little girl growing up, like playing in a big stadium, making her dreams come true. They are, of course, so proud and just are enjoying that I'm out there and playing, and could be also an inspiration for other younger girls.
For sure. I can see you're very modest, so this is not easy for you to talk about how important this is, but you know, it's so exciting for all of us and everyone listening to hear about it. So I hope you don't mind me asking. It's okay to be to revel in it occasionally.
Kate, so, can I just mention one more thing though? I'm really sorry.
Please.
It's just something I recently learned about women's football, and so I get the information and I feel it's my duty almost to diffuse this information, and hopefully people watching will now go look it up, or even you guys on the call. But I was lucky enough to go through the FIFA museum last week, and I found out, I had heard of this, but I didn't realize that in 1971, there was a quasi-women's World Cup that it had occurred, a big tournament for women's football, and they actually sold out Azteca Stadium. Does anybody know how many people were at that game?
100,000.
102 or something? No, wasn't it?
Hannah, you got a guess?
I don't know. Let's say 120.
112,000 people.
Come on.
In 1971.
We very much looked this up before we announced the world record and how we're phrasing it, because it was not an official.
Exactly, it's not an official game.
Yes.
So
our comp team was very much.
But also too, this was a national team game. So also that holds the record for a league game. So that holds true no matter what.
Wasn't it Denmark, by the way?
I think so. Hold on. I have like a little picture right here because I thought it was so cool. I took a picture of the ticket and stuff, but it doesn't say.
Which our Scandi friends might appreciate it.
Yes,
I think you're right, but I'm not 1,000% sure. I literally just found out September 5th, 1971 was this final. And it's just a really cool stat also that so long ago they were able to get so many people to a game. And obviously Mexico is continuing that with how many people go to their regular league games, and we don't discuss them enough. And I just think a shout out to them and what they've been doing is really incredible too. But
that's so great that you called that out.
You guys still have the record for a league.
Oh, of course.
The biggest.
But this is the point we're making, isn't it? Like, you know, it's all part of the same process where everyone's working as a community really of fans of women's football, because there have been so many challenges over history. And you talk about 71, Ariana, that would have been the year or thereabouts when the FA ban on women's football in England came to an end, the 50-year ban. So to see that the desire was there all over the world for these people to come along and support, and of course because things weren't chronicled as carefully as they are today, that's why it's so important when you're talking about the Barcelona game, because you can say this is what's happened, this is the number, and we should be proud of that, I think.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's not a competition. I mean, it is in a sense, but it's not, you know, it's like it just builds on that, I think. So that's really cool. How was the museum? What else did you find out?
I found out that they have an amazing array of jerseys, but they need more women's jerseys in that rainbow array, that they're mostly men's jerseys. And so I pushed them to get some women's jerseys in there, and they do a great job of showing women's football and the progression. But there's a couple more things that we can get a little more women's football in the museum. But otherwise, overall, it was super cool. And I definitely recommend a lot of people to go check it out.
Nice. I mean, maybe this is a good moment to talk about what more you would like to see then, guys, in the way that the women's game is being promoted and from the game's leaders. So I think that leads in quite nicely to that, Ariana. So what would you like to see? I know, of course, DAZN is broadcasting the Champions League now till 2025. So that's awesome that there's stability in this and we know where we are. But what would you like to see next?
I'd love to see a lot more buy-in. I think we have a lot of momentum going behind women's football, and it's going well, but I think we need more buy-in, not just from the professional level. We talk a lot about professionalization of the game, and this is amazing, and I work closely with this, but I also want to see the development of grassroots and adult women Sunday league, just women who have played or have never played football, the opportunity just to have fun and normalize it, that they can go out and they can play. And then again, I think we focus so much on this professional or making national teams, which is a very, very small % of people that get to actually, do what Hannah's doing and play for Sweden and play for Bayern. And it's amazing. But why can't we show women that they can play football through college or up until university, and then they can play Sunday league, and then they can go into football or they can go into sports and they can work in the business side and they can apply for all these amazing opportunities and positions that are out there. There's a lot of courses happening around football right now, and women just aren't applying to them. They can't even make classes 50-50 because they don't get enough women signing up, believing that they know enough about football and that they can do it. And there's 4 women on this call that absolutely know enough about football and talk. And there's more women out there that we need to get into the boardroom and to become decision makers within the game, not just in women's football, but in men's football and in sports in general across the board. We need women working in men's football, and we need men working in women's football and allyship across the board. And so I think all of these discussions can start to change the balance of starting to tell women that they can apply for these positions and that can do more, and they don't have to go pro and they don't have to be professional to either keep playing the game or to work in the game.
That's such a good point about grassroots. Hannah, what was your progress up to where you are? What was your kind of early stage football?
Well, early I was having a friend's dad as a coach for a really, really long time. And then, it was like not professional until, maybe I was 23 or 24 years old. Before that, I used to work in the mornings, and then we had the training in the afternoons, and also tried to get my life puzzled together. I was not earning so much money in the beginning, so it took actually a long time till I kind of played professional.
And that must have been something that you must have felt quite disheartened sometimes, wondering whether you could make a career.
Yeah, like obviously that wasn't, of course it was a vision, but not like, oh, it's really possible. And it was like really hard, especially like in the Swedish league. It wasn't that many like full-time professional football players, and that's why I was like, okay, I was looking at studies and also like working next to it to get a lot of money, to enough money to pay the rent and those kind of things. But now the last years the development is just like going so fast up. And yeah, it's amazing now when you see how many professionals you have, like just in the Swedish league, for an example.
Yeah, and that's a key point, I guess, about progress as well, in Hannah, in terms of your training.
Yeah,
of course, if you're juggling 10 million different things, then it's a lot more difficult. Yeah. So it's and could you even notice that in yourself when you were more free to devote yourself?
Yeah, well, obviously I could like have had so much more energy, and like mentally I was more there and prepared to like perform 100% off the pitch. Also had more time to work on like details, like as technical stuff or like tactical stuff, but also maybe on like strength and like the physical part of the football too. So that also helped to like develop me to a better football player.
Yeah, can really see that. Do you have a sense of where you'd like to see it go next? It sounds like you're pretty happy with the trajectory of women's football.
Yeah, well, what I miss is like more like girls' academies or like really good coaches in early ages for women. That's what I was kind of lacking in Sweden. But also, I think like overall to have better education earlier on to make us all develop and be better at an early stage.
Okay, so again, it ties into the grassroots or the academy setup is gradually building up an opportunity so people know where they can go to just to learn and to be supported.
Yeah,
that sounds like that's key.
Yeah, one of the things, except from all the things that you said, Ariana, like they were also like amazing, because it's not that many that reach the elite level, but we still have to take care of the rest of the people, because that's a whole lot more than us elite players.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to get your views on this as well, Andrea. Where would you like to see women's football go next in terms of the leadership of the game?
Yeah, no, and totally echo both of you on all of it. I think generically that training, let it be, the grassroots or the university degrees or any professional trainings, or even from someone who's a junior member of an organization and giving them that expertise, but also to have more experts, more dedicated staff at every level, clubs, federations, broadcasters, medical staff, coach, and so forth. More promotion, more marketing, more sponsors, more content, better broadcast facilities at stadiums, more cameras, fans to support the whole ecosystem. But also, I think as a fan, I think it's important that if we all want it to grow, then to buy the ticket to the game or the annual membership, or buy or subscribe to the games, or for Christmas or birthday, maybe get the shirt with the Hannah glass at the back, or all of these efforts will collectively advance women's sports, and it's very important.
Yeah, petition the FIFA Museum to have more women's shirts, right, Ariana? I guess it's about making your voices heard, it sounds like. That's a kind of collective thread.
Yeah, I think in my personal experience is I've obviously been a player. I got to play, luckily, with one of the greats, Hannah Glass, even though she won't say it, she definitely is. And on the business side and just working, it's not that people don't care about women's football, and this is men and women that work in the business game. It's just that it's not at the forefront of their mind, and so it's almost just forgotten. There's so much happening in men's football that we're just pushed to the side, and not by choice, but just because of time and human resources, the structure of the clubs. and that when you remind people the game's happening, or that, oh yeah, you're right, and then something happens. And so a lot of times it's just somebody's voice mentioning it that then people realize, oh, we could do this, or okay, we could ask for the women's jerseys just like we asked for the men's. And they're not trying to ignore the women, it's just not like right there. And so with having DAZN doing these projects, with having Bayern getting the women playing at Alliance, it's putting women at the forefront, which will then make it at front of mind and make people realize that they could sponsor women's football, that they could go to the women's game, that they could invest in women's football. And just keeping this ecosystem developing is just by stepping up and asking the questions and making people realize that we're here.
That's such a great point. And Andrea, I guess that ties in as well to the point that was made about this Women's Champions League season, which was that some of the group stages wouldn't clash with other football that was happening at that time. Do you see what I mean about the calendar? Because like you were saying, the calendar was just so packed full of men's football, of women's football. And that must be a real challenge, I feel like.
Yes, I mean, for as much influence that we have, for example, determining the semifinals, which have been in the calendar for the weekends by UEFA, we've been trying to find the best slot so it doesn't clash with the men's competitions. We also seen that, the fans of Barcelona, of men's, will come in and tune in and watch the women's team play, and the Bayern fans will come in and watch the women's team as well. So obviously you don't want to schedule those against each other, and that's very important to make those, listen to the data and also make those decisions to achieve the best for the growth of the game. We've seen, for example, that there's 30% more viewership for the later kickoff times, and so we were for the final looking to put an evening kickoff as well, and those details.
Yeah, what do you think about double headers, Andrea? Like men's, women's, or the other way around?
It could work. It could definitely work. Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's, again, when it comes to scheduling those semifinals, it had to, UEFA and the clubs had to take into consideration where the men's team was playing and when was the stadium being available. But the fact that already that is being, I think in the beginning, maybe some of the clubs needed some convincing to move the games to the big stadiums. Now, by the semifinals, everyone just wanted to put their games to the big stadiums. That's, those are huge progresses. And now the next step is how to fill them. And now we've seen fantastic success in filling them or achieving those records. So I think we're on a great path. And considering what is ahead of us this summer as well, because we all spoke about a great momentum in 2019, but then of course the pandemic happened. And again, when we look at this season, what's really important to note that we just came back from literally empty stadiums. Even the Arsenal Barcelona that took place in the Emirates in December, I remember even a few days before the game, I thought, it's going to go behind closed doors. Please don't let it go behind closed doors. So, we're only a few months in when we could actually attend games in full capacity, and we're looking forward to a brilliant Euros that UK's or England is going to host. And so momentums are building onto one another. And again, this is going back to the more leads to more. So we're not even competing with each other, but we're building on each other's successes, like the competitiveness of the WSL, and more fans watching Arsenal or Chelsea will mean that they will also tune in and watch them in the Champions League, or the professionalization of the Italian league now and the Spanish league. Like, all of these are important pieces into the entire ecosystem, and for us to collectively play a part in the significant growth.
Ariana, what would you like to see from the Euros? What do you think we're likely to experience in England this summer?
Besides Hannah Glass winning it and becoming the MVP? I think I'm just excited to watch Euros. I'm excited for the fanfare that will go around it. There's a lot of conferences and different events that different amazing organizations are hosting around the Women's Euros to get more women and allies and men and everybody involved in the game. I'm excited for what sponsors are going to do and the types of activations we're going to see. Obviously, with Sweden and their jersey, Adidas came out with a really cool jersey and a really cool activation that's promoting the women's game. I think more brands are going to be doing that. And I think it's just going to be this really exciting event all around the board, not just from watching the games, but experiencing the games to the things happening around the games. 100 days leading up to it, they took over the street and had a really cool event outside his Carnaby Street, right? If I'm not
Carnaby
mistaken.
Street, yeah. Have you seen the little like female
the little games? And so
I
think this makes it so much more exciting because people who've never heard of women's football or never, it wasn't forefront of mind that put it out there. And I think there's going to be a lot more events like that. And I think England is one of the perfect places to host this tournament because of the WSL, because of the sponsorship, because of Sky and the BBC and the different TV deals. That's going to be so much fun. And it's an easy place for a lot of the rest of Europe to go to for the games and for these events. And as Andrea said, it's a buildup because now once we do this and it's a super successful tournament, I have no doubt, then we're going to build up to the Women's World Cup and everything is just going to keep going. Also, too, the final is going to be at Wembley. Imagine if we fully sell out Wembley for Euros. We can't have people keep saying that nobody cares. That person who's saying it might not care, but clearly people are caring if they're buying these tickets and they're selling out.
Yeah, we almost don't need to keep arguing with them. It just, the numbers speak for themselves. There's no debate. Anna, is there more pressure now, do you feel like, on a tournament like this, as more people are clearly excited?
It's always been like pressure, obviously, but I wouldn't say more. It just makes it more fun that it's more available. Also, like a bigger event. Also, like Ariana said, like I think it's going to be so amazing. Not just like the games themselves, but also everything like around the games, like before and after. And it's just going to be now good with the visibility and everything. So no, I'm not feeling like more pressure, just more happiness.
Ariana's trying to put pressure on you to be.
No, I'm not. I'm just trying to get Hannah to stop being Swedish and show the world how awesome she is. Hannah's honestly one of the hardest workers in training and deserves all the success on and off the field.
Oh, thank you, girl.
This is so nice. Unfortunately, we're coming to the end here. We have to wrap up in a couple of minutes. So I want this loving to continue, which is annoying. Andrea, what are you looking forward to in the Women's Euros? I mean, the exciting thing from the perspective of England as well is that they're going to be around the country. So you can also spread, the word is being spread, not just, clearly so exciting to be in Wembley, but people can be reached through this tournament.
Yes, I mean, besides the fact that, my daughter is half Swedish, so we've got our matching shirt leading up to the tournament. I also have a Lionesses shirt, so we're going to be, hopefully they're not going to meet until the final or something. But yeah, and besides trying to bring her to, and probably going to take her out of school as well to many of the games and take her around the country. Yeah, it's going to be a massive exposure, and what it does, it will affect grassroots, more girls being inspired by picking up a football, and we will see even more of those ripple effects, and hopefully, more fans again then at the back of the Euros would be tuning in to watch their favorite players in the Women's Champions League as well. And, at the Zone as well, we're quite excited to we already have quite a lot of content pieces who are stars of the Women's Champions League and will be at the Euros and engage the audience in that way too.
Can you give us a little sneak preview? What sort of thing do you mean?
Well, it's just players like Hannah or Miedema or, who are who be key players for the Euros as well, so that we will have some really cool pieces of content coming out in the next few months.
Fine, you're keeping it close to your chest, but it's more about what we talked about throughout the session, about the storytelling around the women's game, how important that is. and how much people like Hannah like lend themselves to that, because they're such great athletes and such great people as well. Hannah, I'm sorry, I feel like we put you under a little bit of kind of emotional pressure here.
No, it's okay, no problem, I can handle it.
But it's clear from what you've said that this is all only good, that the increased exposure in the women's game is just a bonus for you as a great footballer. And that as time goes on, yeah, it wasn't, you know, you've just got to be a great player and you concentrate on that, but what's happening around it is building the opportunities for people within the game. And I think that's so exciting to get the chance to talk about today. So hey, good luck. Thank you for joining us, all of you. I'm sorry that we have to stop now, because I feel like there's much more that could have been said, but we have a whole day of sessions to come. The next one is happening at 11:45. That's the mental health and player welfare session, everybody, so tune in for that. That should be a really good one. And all that's left is to say thank you so much to Hannah, to Ariana, to Andrea. Thank you for joining us and for some really interesting 45 minutes. I'm sorry it has to end now. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you.